Hello, and welcome to the Designing with Love podcast. I am your host, Jackie Pellegrin, where my goal is to bring you information, tips, and tricks as an instructional designer. Hello, instructional designers and educators. Welcome to episode 130 of the Designing with Love podcast. I'm excited to welcome back Maxwell Ivey for part 2 of our accessibility mini-series, Designing for Everyone. In our last conversation, we talked about why accessibility is a competitive edge. And today we're getting practical. We're diving into how to build websites and content that are accessible for all users without making it feel overwhelming. Maxwell, welcome back to the show.
So much for having me back on the show. Hope that people some simple things they can start with and before overwhelmed that realizes a lot.
Absolutely. I love that. I was just talking to one of my coworkers a little bit about that, and he said, "Oh, we're going to have a conversation about that." And I said, "Yeah, we will." Absolutely. So let's start by making accessibility feel approachable, because like you said, for a lot of people, and even for myself for a long time, it can sound technical or intimidating. So when people do hear web accessibility, they often think it's complicated or only for specialists. So for you, what's the simplest way to reframe accessibility so designers and educators see it as good design, not extra work?
So, on time or not being able to attract good employees or keep good employees, whatever the question, these are things that you have to solve on a regular basis as an organizational leader. How would you apply those techniques that you use in that problem-solving exercise? Just apply those same techniques or processes to accessibility. And I feel like that's the best place I can get them as far as avoiding being terrorized or overwhelmed by accessibility.
I like that. So keep it centered on what problem you're trying to solve, right? And make sure that you don't overwhelm yourself, right, with too many different things to solve at one time, right?
Solve everything else.
Right. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, you just have to take it one thing at a time, right? Yeah.
You went from simple equations to quadratic equations to geometry, but you still had to have a process as far as what steps you would take, when you would do what, and of course, you also had to keep track of your work so you can see yourself whether or not you answered the question you started out to ask.
Right. That's so true. Yeah, it's a good point. And I think it's something that oftentimes business leaders or individuals that are working on making things accessible or solving an issue that they have is they forget that, right? Yeah, that's so true.
It's kind of easy to forget because as a community, people with disabilities do not do a good job of making that apparent. We tend to make things feel more challenging than they are.
Right. That's true. Yeah. I know I've done that plenty of times myself and make it more complicated than it needs to be, right? So sometimes getting back to basics is what people need to do. Yeah, I like that.
Somebody who wants to work with others to solve these problems, the important place to begin is for the person you're trying to serve to be willing to accept some of their own responsibility for the issue that you're trying to address. And when it comes to accessibility, many of us with disabilities have made things worse by our expectations, the time constraints we want things done within, and just not making it seem simple when a lot of this stuff is really not all that hard, especially once you get started. And I kind of think about, at one time when I was first starting out online, the only way I could get going was to code HTML. I had to teach myself how to do that. And it was difficult. But after you do it a while, you realize that there's a formula. And, for each thing you want to add to a website, here is how you do it. As long as you follow those same steps over and over again, you can build a really beautiful website with about 7 or 8 very simple tools within HTML if you're willing to do them over and over enough times. I feel like with accessibility, a lot of things we're going to talk about today as far as specific things they need to address are very simple.
All right. That's true. Yeah. So Max, I wanted to kind of get a little bit of that tactical part of maybe with websites and things like that. What do you think are the top 3 to 5 highest impact changes you'd recommend starting with on a website, especially around things like headings, navigation, links, images, alt text, color contrast, those types of things? What are your thoughts on that?
To work off of.
Yeah.
Before I get to the website. One thing that's important, actually, 2 things important people. It takes long for somebody to do that. And access to it. So, one of the things that people should consider before we get into that focusing on the purpose of the website. You want to be as possible. The purpose of the site, navigation.
That's good.
It's not just it's deciding on a structure that makes sense and that was just a concept for that. So, something like your it's like the time of the week. And so HQ would be like information that are simple. What it means to
Right.
The reason that are important is they allow the data check users to navigate across our information. They actually interact with the information that they need. So, let me turn off my screen here. The headings allow you to jump across this kind of like hyperspace. A screen reader would have to tech user on your website. So when you build those well and keep them consistent across your web page, that really allows us to use the websites almost as efficiently as a sighted person or somebody who doesn't have a motor control issue. So I'd say headings is my number one. Number 2, I think, would be the combination of text, which would be the font and the contrast, and the language. As you know, I tend to write and speak in long, complex sentences. But when I post to my website, I do my best to break things up into smaller chunks. So for screen reader users, a lot of times, if I set it to, say, from the top of a page or from the beginning of a paragraph, if there are long, complex sentences, then it can read and I can mishear words, or I can think things that are there that ain't there, or I'll hear things that don't make sense, and then I'll have to go back and check them out word by word or character by character, which obviously takes long.
Right.
And then, the other aspect of that, which is the font and the color, I used to have enough vision where I used very large screen magnification so I can remember the experiences. And this also applies to people with dyslexia. Basically, you want a clean, clear font. You want space between the letters, between the words, and between the lines of text. The clear, crisp text really helps people with dyslexia, but they may have to use some other things along with that, maybe changing the color palette, depending on whether or not that's an option on your website. But in general, the simple font, like simple sites, tend to give you the best chance to avoid accessibility issues. And for screen reader magnifiers, as they increase the size of the text, if you don't have what I was talking about a minute ago, then you're going to have blurry words on top of each other. So I would say that, and then plain language is really starting to become an important thing, that it is so much better to make the connection. And this is really beyond technical, more into the emotional. It's really easier to make a connection with the person who has a disability when you speak in plain language. I'm not talking about offensive or condescending language, but just plain, simple words like blind instead of visually impaired. That's what sounds right for you when you're writing that sentence. And of course, for me, since I'm also a writer, I tend to change whatever words I use from time to time, so I don't use the same expression over and over again. But I'm really encouraged by the fact that we are in a time now where plain speaking and plain language, especially in the area of accessibility and disability, is becoming a thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's great. Wow. I like that. Thank you, Max. Appreciate it. So, yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that? Yeah.
Well, I don't think we can do this without talking about alt text, but I think people, don't realize that alt text is just a small part of images. And if we're talking about being inclusive, we're talking about having an online presence that goes beyond simply your website. And so the alt text is the descriptive text that you can add. It's in the background unless you're using a screen reader like myself, or unless you're somebody who likes to look at people's web code. And it tells my screen reader that there's an image there, and then it will tell it whatever you have told it. So your description is an alternative text. And you can put things in there like the gender of the person, the color and type of the clothes that they're wearing. I think in the alt text you sent me for your picture, it says you're wearing a shirt that has a blouse. It's a mixture of pink and blue and purple. So you get to show your understanding of the visual aspect of the image. And I encourage people to try to make the description as compelling as the image was, because most people put some time and thought into their photos or into the stuff they're creating for their business. So I don't have any really hard and fast rules for the alt text, but I would say try to compel the message and try to put yourself in the place of the other person. But the images, the alt text, and alt text is not only important for images, but also any item that you attach an image to. So if you attach an image to a button, a link, or a video, then that alt text has to be there. But beyond the alt text, we have emojis, stickers, and GIFs. And these are widely used even on websites. And so I used to tell people avoid GIFs altogether because they're not accessible. And they've gotten a little more accessible for screen readers, but I also discourage them because the gifts could possibly trigger people with autism or ADHD or PTSD. But they've now offered a new option on gifts where you can set them to either stop or start motion when somebody encounters the gift. Now, most people default to having it in motion when somebody arrives at it. I personally think the default should be stop motion because it really can take so little to trigger somebody with a mental or emotional disability.
Right.
That's something we don't always think about. The emojis and the stickers. The emojis are really accessible because they were created through an internet convention. They have to be discussed and voted on and approved in advance. And they're mostly simple images that are easy to add descriptions that everybody will understand. Even the ones that are people where I have issues where they want light skin, thick skin, dark skin, those are still relatively easy things to understand. So the emojis, it's not really a problem except for I find quite often with social media posts, text messages, even sometimes with emails, people will use 3, 4, 5 emojis in a row. And the problem with that is my screener has to announce each of them separately. Now, if you did, like, say, 3 smiley faces, my computer will say 3 smiley faces. It won't say smiley face 3 times unless you put a space between each of them, and then it will treat them as individuals. So, can you be conscious about how many emojis you're using? What do they mean? Are you even sure what they mean? Sometimes I catch myself about to use one and I go, I don't really know what this means to me, much less what it might mean to the other person. So, be thoughtful. Every so often, I'll run across a social media post, and there'll be 5 or 6 or 7 emojis in their profile, which means every time I see one of their posts, my computer has to read those descriptions again and again. So it's one of those things we don't think about much, and they're in accessibility, but it's something we should be mindful about. And then stickers are a little more difficult because people can create their own stickers. Companies create them. And so stickers are like any other straight image. It really comes down to the alternative text description of the image. And so if you're creating stickers for your own use, that use with your logo or personal photo, then you want to make sure that those alt texts that you add to those stickers when you create them are accurate. I had to stop using some of the more common cartoon-based stickers on social media because people kept telling me, Max, the description isn't matching up to what they're telling you this is a picture of you. So be conscious of stickers. If a sticker is has a lot of description to it, and you're using a bunch of them, that could be slowing down the process of the person visiting your website. For example, one of my favorite stickers is one of Snoopy, and the description from the Peanuts people that's on the sticker every time I use it is Snoopy. With white and white fur, with black ears, shuffling his feet as he dances down the street, something like that. And I know I can't use that sticker very often or more like it because it's going to take somebody else a while to do anything with it. So, stickers, emojis, gifts, are the things we don't always think about. They're not things that we generally use a lot on websites. We use them more often in blogging than we do in site building. But they are an important part of everybody's communication. And as a good friend of mine keeps reminding me, she's like, Max, when you say you can't send a message, that isn't correct. When you say you can't send a message, what you're really saying is you cannot communicate. So these emojis, stickers, gifts, along with all text on images, these are all ways we communicate information about our product, service, or ourselves as a person or a company to the people that visit our online website.
That's important. Yeah, I didn't even think about the the GIFs, the emojis, the stickers. Wow. That's the way you're right. It's the way people communicate with each other. So we have to be aware of those too. That's great. I love that. Thank you, Max, for that great insight on that. I'm going to think more about those now than before. Absolutely.
So I stayed in a hotel with a woman that brought up somebody. We have these opportunities, and this is really the aspect of inclusion. When you get the opportunity for somebody who has a disability, as long as you do it from a respectful point of view, trying to learn so you can be more inclusive, you can't waste those opportunities to learn more to help others in the visit website.
Right. That's true. Absolutely.
So,
thank you. Yes. It's great when we learn those things that we can put in our toolbox, right, to make things more inclusive and more accessible for everyone. So I love that. So as we know, Max, most people aren't rebuilding an entire website, right? Not all the time, at least. Sometimes they're adding pages or they're posting blogs, maybe updating a landing page or uploading resources. So if you had to give listeners a simple pre-published accessibility checklist that they can run in 5 minutes before they hit post, what would be on it for you? Yeah, or maybe they're adding a page to their website, or maybe posting a blog or something like that.
Some cases, depending on the size of the website, a great place to start can be just like somebody that has fallen off the wagon with their diet. Okay, yesterday was a bad day, we're going to start over today. So, for some people, saying that this blog post, this next page of any of my website, these are going to be good things about accessibility. And that can be a great way to get started and a way to avoid the overwhelm. Before you do that, just look at your home page and make sure your links are properly labeled and that the link goes to where you tell people it's going to. Make sure that your buttons are clickable with a keyboard or with a mouse, and then again they're properly labeled. And over time, get your home page right. Generally, most of the other pages follow. Which always on my blind blogger website. I'm not exactly sure how to do it right this minute. Because I'm using green, white, and black, and as we know, green is one of those colors we should really avoid.
Right.
We mentioned earlier about text size, performance, basic things that are easy for you to respond to. Assure yourself that they are accessible, that you're working more accessible. You're all right with the big site, the whole site can be very challenging. Not accessible. So the best way to do that may be with starting with your newest content.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, start from that approach that your newest content first, and then work your way backwards, right?
While running mistakes along the way.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Can be easy to get lost in the weeds of it, right? For sure. Yeah.
Sometimes what happened to me was probably my left side. I never saw it. This is one of the but then I go, this way for 4 years. I don't really want to go back. It seems like you pretty much have to force yourself to accept some of your old stuff the way it is now. So that you don't overwhelm yourself, don't paralyze yourself. As I was saying, you can start by making sure the new stuff is better and over time work with, which is something I like to talk about. It's a study process. So if you have a process, if you decide that everything you're going to do is for a certain number as part of the system. So it would be a very healthy approach as I said,
Yeah, it's a tough thing to know where to start and where you can make the highest impact, right, for your users as well. That's true. Yeah.
A lot of times people are generally going to look at your first anyway. So the stuff is generally where people are going to start. They see stuff.
Hello, I have some exciting news to share with all of my listeners. There is a feature called fan mail. What this allows you to do is send me a text message anytime during the episode. There's a link located at the top of the description in each episode, and it says send Jackie a text message. So when you click on that link, you'll be able to send me a message letting me know what you thought about the episode and if you have any ideas for future episode content as well. I look forward to seeing your text messages. Thank you. Right. That's true. Absolutely. Yes. So as we know, Max, tools can make accessibility feel a lot more doable, especially when you're building this habit that you and I are talking about, these different things that we can do. So what are your top 2 to 3 go-to tools or quick checks you recommend for spotting the most common website accessibility issues?
So when it was just the number one, it's something that website checker is pretty solid from what I've seen. Those would be the top 3. And then there are lots of companies online that offer services that have checkers that are all but what won't be surprised to you this.
Yeah, so you have to be careful which ones you go with, right? That's true.
Those first 3 are all good options, especially if you're pushing something like 65 or 75% of the websites online. So I think those 2 would be good. But from what I've seen, I don't think that interfaces would be intimidating.
Right. I agree. I've checked out the Wave one, and that's it's accessible. It's easy to navigate, and so that's good. So I think most people would be okay with using that for their accessibility checker. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially the users, is unless it's some change, you know, 3 months. So there are huge corporations out there that do a lot of things right. There's people, you know, starting for
Hmm. That's that's kind of surprising that a big company like Google would not have certain things like Google Docs and Forms be accessible. Wow, that's surprising. I'm glad I don't use those very often. That's good. Yeah.
you know, they're not the only ones. Because we have quite a few examples of corporations that are doing it very poorly. So we also have examples of smaller sole entrepreneur or very small teams-based companies that are doing very well.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, because you would think that the larger corporations, since they have more more of that ability to be able to put money into it, right? And they have larger staff to be able to have that ability to do it. You would think that the larger companies would be better at it than the smaller mom and pop shops or ones that are small businesses. Yeah, that's interesting. Just the opposite.
It's part of it is that larger corporations that have got more inertia to overcome.
Right, right. That's true. Yeah. So it depends on, what their, like you said, what their focus is and what they're trying to accomplish. Right. And it's true. If they're not customer focused, then they're not going to think of the things that you and I are talking about as often.
I think the absolute minimum required by the online guidelines.
Right. Yeah. Just do what they have to do to get it out. Right. Yeah.
And, you know, that's actually an important thing for a lot of business owners to organization. Corporations
Absolutely. That's a great question. I think every business leader needs to ask themselves that. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. You want to have a competitive advantage, then don't just do the minimum, right? Exactly.
you tell your students the same thing. Come on, man, you're going to have to do more than this.
Right. Exactly. Can't just do the bare minimum and expect to get an A on that assignment or receive an A in my class. It's going to take more effort than that. Yep, exactly. I don't hand out A's, just like, teachers probably, they shouldn't hand out candy to every student and say, oh, good job. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm not in the business of handing out A's freely. So they have to earn it. Absolutely. Yes. To wrap up, let's make this actionable for someone who's listening on a walk or maybe driving and they want a clear next step. So if a listener takes one action this week to make their website or digital content more accessible, what's the first thing you'd want them to do? great. Thanks, Max. I appreciate that. And I know my listeners will appreciate that too, especially if they're doing consulting or they have a business website. I think they would really appreciate that. Because like you said, the homepage is where people are going to go first, right? So it's that first impression and you want to make sure it's accessible for people. I love that. So I appreciate that.
Appreciate you sitting. Talk to a lot of people. Starts the podcast. So
well, Maxwell, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate it and giving us such a clear, practical way, different ways actually, that we can make accessibility doable, because I think it is doable for us. So I really appreciate too how you break this down so instructional designers like myself and educators can take action right away. So for anyone who wants to keep learning from you or connect with you, what's the best place to follow you and reach out? Great. I love it. Yes, I see that you're very active on there too. And so whenever I see your comments and everything related to Podmatch or anything related to accessibility, it's great to see that you're active on there as well. So that's wonderful.
It's a safe place to go and more.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. Yeah, it's a great way to connect with other professionals and stay up to date on what's going on in the industries. So yeah, I agree with you on that one. Great. Well, I look forward to having you back again. You're more than welcome. The door's always open. So anytime on the podcast. So if you think of something you want to share with all the listeners, let me know. And I'd be happy to have you back on and we can dig deeper into any other area that you're interested in. Great. Thanks again, Max. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking some time to listen to this podcast episode today. Your support means the world to me. If you'd like to help keep the podcast going, you can share it with a friend or colleague, leave a heartfelt review, or offer a monetary contribution. Every act of support, big or small, makes a difference, and I'm truly thankful for you.